Good to see you again. I didn't know. I was about to say I wasn't expecting to come back on today because I did a video earlier today. But I actually knew I was coming on. Because I was going through like some of my videos and I realized that I started talking about this book and I never told y'all like what I thought. Because well, first of all, the book is Credit Be His Help Me. I literally just finished this book last month, like the end of last month. It was about mid last month, mind you. I started that book months ago, like at the beginning of the year. Actually, yeah, because I got this book around this time last year. Actually, I think I started reading it around January. So yeah, it took me basically it's been a year since I've had this book basically, and I just finished it. And that in itself should tell you that how I felt about it because yeah, it don't take me no year to read the book, no matter how much I normally do or what else I'm reading. And so, well, I guess I can't say that because it's one of the book I was reading, but it takes me a while to read through a book if it's heavy content, and I'm like, okay, let me digest that. Like, oh, that was a lot. This wasn't one of those books though, and because I remember on the last video I talked about this, there were some people who were interested, who had questions, wanted to kind of have like a discussion or whatever, but I hadn't read enough of the book to, talk about much of anything about it. But I finally finished it, right? It was a struggle. It really was. And part of me, and the thing was I had to check and I had to make sure, like, is it aligning that you're just, rebellious in nature or whether like aligning, is it you? Is it honestly just you? And you just, this whole, all of this is just so foreign to you, or you're just not in the place to like receive it, or is it really just the author? And in some cases, it might have been me, but in some cases, it was the author. Like, I thought honestly, this book had been written in the 70s, the way she was talking. It is so outdated. Mind you, it was written. I just looked it up because I thought Shirley. This book was written in like 1975 or something. And I was like, okay, her viewpoint would make sense for that time period. This book was written in 2004. Like, it was originally published in 2004. That makes no sense for how she talks in this book. And so I'm gonna give you guys like the pros and cons of how I personally felt. But just looking at the cons, because really the cons, honestly, I'm gonna tell you right now, would I recommend this book? Not really. Honestly, I would not. It was a struggle for me to get through this book. And it was a struggle not because of the content, because of her tone. Like, she was very demeaning. And my thing is, this is why I don't have a book that is written for women who are clearly seeking out, how to be a good wife, or if they're not wives, or if they are a wife, they want to be better wives. Don't be mean. You don't have to be mean. You have to be demeaning. You don't have to like talk ugly to people and describe people. Like, literally, she was calling people stupid, calling people dumb, all this other stuff. Like, that was so unnecessary, and it was such a turnoff. I'm like, you're supposed to be like in this place to help someone. Like, literally, like, people are coming to you for this advice, and you're like just calling them dumb or whatever. Like, they have questions, answer the questions. You don't have to talk about them. Like, I didn't appreciate that, and there was no point where that was necessary. It's like, it's one thing to be like, real straightforward, because I'm a straightforward person. I'm very much straightforward. But it's one thing to be straightforward. It's one thing, a whole totally other thing to be mean. And she was just straight up mean. Like, in the book, people would like write her. I don't know if she has I don't know how they get in contact with her. I don't know if she has a blog or whatever. But like, they write her letters, right? And I guess her and her husband have a big ministry, or that's just what they're known for. Because, like, in the book, there's letters included. Like, people have written her letters. They ask her, advice for their marriage or whatever. And she'll just call them dumb and stupid and all this other stuff. Like, it's so not cool. Like, that's not okay. Like, nothing about that is okay. So it was very hard for me to receive anything she was saying because she was just being straight up mean. And it was a little unnecessary. Whew, I wrote a whole list. Let's talk about it. The other thing, and it's crazy because the first thing I wrote down was just felt outdated. And that was before I realized when the book was written. Like, honestly, I thought it was written in the 70s, some of the things she was saying. So I'm guessing she must have had a very sheltered life because she's very much unaware of how things work. One of the things she kept saying is like, oh, your husband's going to leave you, and then you're going to try to get a job, and you're not going to be able to get a job because you're a woman, and then you're going to have to rely on food stamps and yada, 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 yada. I'm like, hold up, first of all, that's not how the world works right now. Like, the world doesn't quite work. Like, yeah, there's a pay gap, but like, you're not going to be denied a job because you're a woman. That's not. We have gone beyond that point. At the very least, we are beyond that. Like, you can be a mom and work. Like, It's 2019, guys, and you know when the book was written in 2004, like we were kind of, we ain't got that far. Let's be honest, still a pay gap, but it wasn't. It's not to the point where it's like, oh, you being a single mom automatically means, you know, the absolute worst. Like there are striving single moms out here who are killing the game and doing well, you know, well for themselves. And it's almost like, and what I didn't like was the fact she's using this type of fear tactic to almost force people into the women to behaving in certain ways. You know, like basically her whole thing is like, I get whole submit to your husband, like literally that's in the Bible. That's like, but what she's saying is just like, it was just on a whole nother level. Basically, like she was saying, like, you should do this, do whatever he says so he doesn't leave you. Like that's like her main thing, because then she always went back to, oh, if you don't please him or whatever, he's gonna leave you, and then he's gonna you're gonna be on your own and you're gonna be on welfare or something or the other. Like it always went back to that. Like it was never just like, you know, you should have a happy, like you want to have a happy marriage. So these are some possible things that you want to look out for. It always went back to like, you're going to be poor basically if you don't please your husband. And I was like, that's a big extreme. And you don't have to scare people into like a certain view or to take on your viewpoint. Because really she's pushing one view of it. And it's kind of like I think the route she took, you know, she mentioned how her husband is quite a bit older than her. And like, that's one of the things. And so there's a big age gap. She's from some little small country town, and she it was something else that makes her basically have a certain viewpoint. You know, it's because there's a big age gap. So of course she has a different perspective of her husband than like somebody who's probably gonna be closer in age. They're in a little rural town where it's just like basically the women, you know, once they graduate high school, they get married. Like that's pretty much it. That's what so it's already a big age gap, and she got married extremely young as well. So of course your viewpoint on how things work or how you think things work are gonna be a bit skewed because the way you grew up, your lifestyle is completely different. Like, bruh, I'm not married and I got a house, I got a job, I'm good. Like my husband coming along, like if he, God forbid, Lord, God forbid, decides to leave me or whatever, we get divorced, I'm not getting on welfare. Like, I don't need food stuff. I didn't need it before. I ain't gonna need it after. And so, like, her reality and my reality don't quite line up at all. And so my thing was, like, the issue I have with this book, she's pushing this, like, oh, fear taxes, oh, it has to be a certain way, or he's gonna leave you and you're gonna just be horrible. Like, no, like, yo, this was literally written in 2004. Like, people were doing good by themselves already. So that's crazy to even, like, that be your only point of view. The other thing I didn't care for, when it comes to like some of the biblical stuff, she just ignores context, like just completely, like does not care. Like, cause so you know how like people be really on the whole, women aren't supposed to be like preachers, women can't, you know, be in the pulpit. They're supposed to, you know, shut up in the church, yada yada yada. That's coming from what, Corinthians, I think, where Paul is talking. No, it's Ephesians. It's Ephesians or Corinthians. One or the other, I can't quite remember right now. But basically, in the Bible, like Paul is talking to, like the thing is about the Bible, you can't ignore the context of it. Like you honestly just cannot ignore it. But people like they pick and choose times when they want to like pay attention to the context, pay attention to what was happening, and when they don't. Like it's basically when it suits them, which is ridiculous all in itself. And so with this whole debate over whether or not women should preach or lead or anything like that, in that time period, you have to remember Paul's writing letters to specific church. Yeah, those same principles and stuff can apply to the bigger church, the church at large, and the church at large today. But you have to keep in mind that he's still specifically talking to a specific church. And in that particular church, the women were they was acting up, child. They was acting up. And they were doing like they was causing distractions. They were dressing really like ornately, basically like really big head pieces, being the distraction, like doing things just to show off. So like a lot of things he's telling for the women not to do, and he's also telling them, you know, if you have questions, don't say nothing now, like ask your husband, all that. It's because of that they were causing a distraction, because they were like how they were going about it. But he's specifically talking about this one specific group of women. What has happened since then, people have taken that like, oh, that's what the Bible says, so now women can't do anything. Like, that's crazy, because then why would God be calling all these women to preach? Like, they didn't choose to do this. They didn't just decide one day, like, oh, I'm be a preacher. Like, no, all these women, like, who preach now, some of them might have chose, they were just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But then some of them literally have the gifting, and God has called them to do this. So why would he be calling women to preach if they weren't supposed to preach? Like, that doesn't make sense either. And so she went on and on and on a whole long tangent about that. And like, it's just like, ugh, girl, simmer down. And so like, I didn't appreciate the fact that in certain instances she would talk about context, and certain instances she wouldn't. Like, that's like, either you have to look into the context or you just ignore it completely. But don't just go back and forth just because it suits you or what you're trying to say or your argument in that moment. And then she uses that like, oh, that's the reason why your husband's leaving you, because you're trying to be in the man's role, because you're trying to preach and yada yada. If you got the anointing to preach and you're a woman, like, your husband shouldn't have no issue with that. Like, if like literally that's the person you're supposed to be with, like if this is a good, healthy relationship, marriage, your husband's not gonna have any issue with that. But she's making it seem like, oh, you're the reason why your marriage is failing, yada 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 yada. It's so ridiculous. Like, I did not like that part at all. And basically I was just saying something. What did I say? Oh, she basically has one view, and like, that's it, and it's from her personal perspective. So again, she's probably from some really small town. She was married really young, and I don't think she went to college. I don't know, so she might have a very limited worldview, and that's where she stays the entire time. And so she puts everybody in her own specific like situation. She looks at everybody's situation from her eyes, and like, oh, this is, so if you do anything outside of that, like her scope, it's like, oh, you're doing something wrong. Like, no, that's not cool. There's this one section in here, it's kind of talking about lust in a way. Basically it was talking about like how the women, it was this weird, really long drawn out story, and she was talking about how, basically your clothing or something or the other. And she talked about how it was this woman who might have been a youth pastor or something like that, and like the issue was actually like, there was a kid in the youth group who stopped wanting to come to church or whatever and stopped wanting to be active. He was super active. He wanted to stop because the woman wore a leather skirt one day. And mind you, the leather skirt, the way she described it was literally like a pencil skirt, right? Like to the knees, nothing like crazy, outlandish or whatever. To her, it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe you would wear that. But honestly, it's fine. It's not a big deal, right? Like, and so and the issue was because the kid was like lusting after her. He had watched porn or something or the other, and like, it was just like, and that's one of the outfits that the woman in the video maybe had on a leather skirt as well. So then he associated the two, and now he's having all these weird thoughts. My issue with this, because she put it all on the woman, the youth pastor, right? And then the kid grows up, and when he gets married, he tries to, that he's satisfied sexually for a while, but then after the wife has kids, she's tired or whatever. So then he now goes back to porn, and she's basically blaming this guy's issues. Like, now this is why he don't want to come to church, because he feels tempted because his wife doesn't want to have sex with him and at that particular time or whatever. She's blaming all the issues on all the issues with the guy around the women that's in his life. When really that dude got an issue with lust. She got the spirit of lust is on that dude, and he has not taken care of it. It got on him when he started, messing around with porn at a young age, and he never got like over it. He never was delivered from it. And this is my issue, because I hear this a lot. A lot of times when it comes to like women, like in the church, like it's always pushed, oh, modesty. Women have to be modest. You have to dress a certain way. Your skirt has to be below your knees or to the ground or whatever. Modesty. Okay, cool, whatever. Because we don't want the guys to be lusting after you and yada yada yada. Okay, cool, but at some point that dude got to take responsibility for himself at the end of the day. Like the Bible says, flee. Like when it's a situation like you're supposed to flee temptation, that means you have to do something. Not everybody around you. Why does everybody else around you have to do something when it's really your issue? Like, that's crazy, And so, like, she took that whole standpoint of that, and I was just like, girl, okay, whatever. Like, please just stop. Like, she went on and on about it. And it was just like, nah, I ain't with you on that one. So, yeah, went on the tangent for a sec. Excuse me. There were some decent things in the book, I guess you could say. One of the things I wrote on my pros list, she does have a different perspective than I do. one thing is like she's been married for a really long time, so I can glean wisdom when there's wisdom. You know, I'm not so above it where it's just like, oh, she'll know what she's talking about, yada yada yada. There were pockets. It's like one of those moments where you eat the meat, leave the bone type situations. Like you have to find it. Like it's crazy because in this book, the first couple of chapters, like it might have been the first couple of chapters, like you can even see, like I highlighted quite a bit because there was actually stuff I was just like, wow, this is really good, like, or I never thought about this, or things because I like, look, I ain't married, so things I have not considered because I haven't had to consider it, right? But the thing was, is like the more I kept reading, like the girl, she just kept going off. I was just like, ooh, this is a little intense. I can only read but so much of this, but there were good points and the things I have not considered, and just like different, like she did have insight on like, okay, this is how a guy will operate in this situation. This is what they'll think in this situation. But at the same time, though, I really didn't like this book, guys. I'm trying to give her some good points, but I really didn't like it. But anyways, there were like moments where it's just like you're now you're contradicting yourself. So this is one point later on, and it's going under the section where it's talking about, like, okay, the man is over the wife, and then the wife is over the children, but God is the head of everyone, right? And so, and it was kind of like talking about at what point do you honor your husband? At what point do you honor God? And trying to make that differentiation in those situations. And there's one time where I'm surely thinking she's gonna say, "Oh, you did the wrong thing in this situation," and she didn't. She completely agreed with the lady. And I just don't know what to do anymore. So the lady, her husband had like this like shed in the backyard, and he had like a computer back there, and he would go out there for like at night for hours and hours, and he would just be on the computer, and he was telling her he was working on a business, yada yada yada. So she had to like raise the kids in the house, and they would never see like the dad. As soon as he got off work, he went to the shed or whatever. And so eventually one day she got curious, like, okay, what are you really doing? After it turns out dude was watching like just straight up porn, just a whole bunch of porn, right? Just ridiculous, right? Like for hours all night long. That's what he was doing in that shed. And she found out. And so what she does, she gets a rock. She stows a rock into the window, and boom, because like the dude locked the door, right? And like breaks the window. And so he runs out thinking somebody's trying to like break into the house or something. And she goes when he runs out, she goes in. She had like a bat or a rock or something. And she breaks the computer. And I'm just thinking, surely you're not going to condone this like behavior. Like, because the way she talks is like, you got to do everything to please the husband. Like, you have to do everything just to do whatever he wants, whatever he says, unless he's beating you. That was like the one stipulation. And even then, don't leave him, just pray for him or something. Like, it had to be extreme for you to basically leave this dude in her case, right? She's like, no, that was the right thing to do. I'm just like, okay, now I just don't know what you want me to do anymore. I just don't know. And of course, in my mind, in my regular thinking mind, like, of course, like you beating up the computer or whatever, go for it, go at it, girl. You do that. But like, based off the advice she had been given, every time they wanted to, like, in any situation where it's just like the woman was right to like act a certain way, she would always tell them, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, you're done for doing that. And he gonna leave you and marry somebody else and yada, yada, yada. But then that one case, she was like, oh no, that's the right thing to do. So like, it's really confusing. It's really confusing in these different situations of what she was supposed to do. So anyways, I tell you. So like, if you ever get this book, know that there is some good stuff. There are good points in here, I suppose, but you gotta jump around. Like, don't try to read this in like a short period of time because you're gonna get mad and you're gonna get frustrated. Because I was mad and frustrated, and I was just like, look, I just don't understand. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really stood out. I'm trying to think of a good point that really stood out. There was one part, she basically categorized like men in like basically 3 different situations, basically, or how they would normally act. And she did give advice on how to, like, your husband is this type of person. Like, this is how you, I don't want to say deal with them or handle them, but this is how you, like, this is how they operate, and this is how you should respond. And I thought that was helpful because, like, there are things like, and because it's crazy because when I was reading, I was like, okay, my dad is that type of, like, man. Like, he's this type of man. So that, and then she also would say, like, okay, if your parent, your dad, or your father figure was this type, you might be attracted to this type, or you might be attracted to the exact opposite, and all that stuff. I was like, okay, I can see that. And so the fact that she did give actual, okay, this is the type of guy, like these are the type of guys there are. One was, let me see if I can find that right quick. One was like Mr. Visionary, so they have a lot of vision. They are big, like they're the vision guys. They basically make all the plans. They have big dreams, big, whatever, like goals. And she was like, one of the ways you can help them or you could work alongside them is just by being more like maybe focusing on the details of helping them get their visions off the ground. Okay, that was good advice. And then there was another one. She called him Mr. Command, which basically is almost like a commander, like in the army or something like that. And she was like basically saying that they really need to feel like they're in charge. And so the best way to approach them, like you have to like know how to approach them. So you might not want to come at them like demanding or whatever like that. You will come at them on like the softer side. So then they feel like they're like their authority is being respected or whatever. A lot of this is just like massaging their ego. And I'm just like, I don't know where I'm at with that just yet, but I'm still single, so like, Lord, you good. Like you gonna work on me if I need to be worked on in that particular area. I was like, okay, girl, I get what you're saying. And then the other one was she called him Mr. Steady. And so basically he might be a combination of the two, but he may seem like he's not like, or he might be a combination of the two, or he might be like neither of them. Like he might not be the big visionary guy. He might not be the real authoritarian guy. He might just be really chill, really laid back. And then to know that, okay, just because he's more laid back or reserved, it doesn't mean that he's not a good leader. And that sometimes that's the pitfall for the wives or those guys, is that they are looking for someone to take charge and be like demanding when that's not his nature. And so how to then like work aside him when his nature is not that whole demanding side. So there were actually good points in this book. You just gotta get around and dance around all the other stuff because she be wilding and it's crazy. I'm just like, girl, I don't know what you're talking about. Some of the advice she gives, I'm like, ooh, girl, that's a little rough. I wouldn't have said that. And it's just like she says these random statistics. Those aren't true. Like your statistics aren't true at all. Like I don't know. Like she just pulled them out the sky. And so like, cause she was like, oh, like less than 5% of like guys are abusive or like have ever done anything like that. I'm just like, where did you get that stat from? Because like, come on, like where did you actually like, or did you just pull that out the sky? Cause it sounded like you just pulled it out the sky. Like she was basically saying like, oh, there's no abusive relationships out there. Like, no, there are. Let's not like cover up that fact that there are, and there's people like she was trying to justify some stuff like, oh, basically the only time you should really leave is like if there is a domestic violence type situation. But she was like, oh, that never happens. So it's like, that's not true, and we can't ignore that. And to just kind of gloss over that is not fair and it's not cool, because like some of the behaviors she was okay, or she looked the other way on. Like low-key, that's like emotional abuse. Like what that guy is doing is emotional abuse, and that's not okay. And I didn't particularly care for that, But yeah, there are good points in this book. You just gotta find them. So would I recommend it? Not really. But I mean, if you ain't got nothing better to do, go get it, I guess. I don't know. I think you could find a better book on, like, if you want to prepare to be a wife, if you want to become a better wife, you want to work on your relationship. I think the most I got out of this is the fact that if you can get through this book, it's like, well, then you and your husband are gonna be straight. Like, you can put up anything he can say because you already done went through all this. Which I'm like, all right, that's fair. If I got nothing else out this book, like I finished this, that means I can do anything because this girl was out here. But anyways, yeah. That's all I got to say about this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're looking for like marriage advice or relationship advice, go to the Bible. Just see what the Bible say about it. You can look up Esther, you can look up Ruth, you can look up Eve. You can find some stuff in Eve. Like in Genesis, you can find some stuff and nothing else what not to do, So yeah, but this one, here y'all can see it. I don't know. I wouldn't thoroughly recommend it. But I mean, Yeah, I was trying to give it like a good point, like, oh yeah, but I was really trying hard. I was reaching for something, but there ain't nothing there. I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. Yeah, you can get better information elsewhere, but I read it, so if anybody wants to borrow it, you can have it because I don't need it. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys find a cool book to read. If it's a great book out there, let me know. I have a good book for you guys to read. It's called Never Be Bound Again. You can buy it on Amazon, or if you know me, you can hit me up and I'll give you a copy. It's a great book on deliverance, spiritual warfare, all that kind of stuff. It's a really excellent book. 5 stars on Amazon. So I will talk to you guys later.